F1 has Drive to Survive. NASCAR has Full Speed, and even IndyCar has its 100 Days to Indy. If Netflix was going to do a series on the A2RL, what would they call it?
Race to Innovate.
And who's the Gunther Steiner on your series? Who's the big star, you think?
I think we'd like to think that the car is going to be the star, right? But obviously we're going to look to personalities of people, and they will emerge. I think we are going to see a lot of the teams have very interesting people and personality behind them, and I think one of the things we're looking for is to see that as being the star. But there are a number of other things in the car. Very interestingly, we have launched on Fortnite platform, and the avatars that have been developed on that are kind of interesting. So depending on the age profile of the audience, I think we might find that the avatars become the sustaining feature in the longer term.
So Gunther Steiner may be replaced by a Fortnite avatar. Now that's exciting. That's a new big step for racing. Autonomous racing technology isn't just for city streets. It's finally making its way onto the racetrack. Abu Dhabi's Yas Marina Circuit, home to Formula One, is now hosting the first A2RL, or Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League, autonomous car race. The league, established by Aspire, the program management arm of Abu Dhabi's Advanced Technology Research Council, is putting autonomous super formula cars, which are just a step below those run in F1, onto the Yas Marina circuit. So, why would you even want to create an autonomous racing league? What will the race, the spectator experience be like? What are Aspire's future plans for autonomous racing? Well, today's guest surely has all the answers. Take a listen to part 1 of 2 on the A2RL. Racing has a long history of pushing the boundaries of what cars can do, of innovating the technologies that eventually make it into the cars that we all drive. And in the past few years, racing technology development has even extended into the world of autonomous driving. Now, when we think of racing, we think of high speed, daring passes, and the human skill that's required behind the wheel. Can an autonomous car race capture this same thrill, or is it just about technology development? Has the time finally arrived for true autonomous car wheel-to-wheel racing, something that a few have tried, but none have yet fully succeeded? Today, we're thrilled to have Dr. Tom McCarthy. Tom is the managing director of Aspire that is leading a venture called the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League, or A2RL. What makes A2RL different? Is it going to be the first to truly succeed where others have seen limitations in autonomous car racing? Tom, he has the answers for us, and he's ready to tell us all about it. Welcome to the Future Car Podcast.
How you doing, Ed?
Well, listen, you've got a race on April 27th. You're going to be hosting autonomous cars in wheel-to-wheel competition at Abu Dhabi's Yas Marina circuit, $2.25 million in prize money. Now, before we jump into the details of the competition, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what inspired the creation of the race. What are its goals? What do you hope to achieve with all this?
Okay, well, I guess the thing to understand with all of this is where we are coming from, what we are. So the organization I work for is called Aspire. It's part of the Abu Dhabi's Advanced Technology Research Council. And our mission is to bring forward technological advances that will be the drivers of the diversification of the economy of Abu Dhabi. As most people know, the source of original wealth here is a resource-based source. What we want to see is this country develop in a diversified way that uses those resources to create industries as diverse as agriculture, transportation, healthcare, where the driving force behind of those sectors is the adoption and the development of technology. So in that context, Aspire has been set up to push that development, to identify the use cases and bring about the technology solutions to those through fostering research. And one of the ways we do it is by mounting grand challenges. Now, grand challenges have a long and distinguished history. If you go back to the 18th century, I guess the original grand challenge was the so-called Longitude Prize, where at that time, 20% of all shipping that went to sea foundered. People died, cargo was lost. And the reason is people weren't able to tell longitude at sea. And the reason they couldn't do that is there wasn't a clock that could keep time on board a ship and be able to refer it back to the time on land. So the British government set up a thing called the Longitude Act and set up a prize with £20,000 back in 1720. Start a competition to identify a solution so that you could measure longitude at sea. Now, it took a long time to do that. The first successful intervention took about 15 years, and for 50 years they kept developing it. But that approach to finding solutions to technology challenges is one that we've taken on. And we said, look, there are many big problems that need solutions out there in the world, and those big problems require technology to solve them. And our big challenges are about doing that. So where does A2RL come in? Well, the big challenge that we see out there at the moment are the fatalities and the accidents that occur on roads. We look out there at the average driver's capability, and we look at the developments that have occurred in the automotive industry over the last century. We've got cars that are stronger, faster, better at doing all sorts of things. But the average capability of the driver hasn't really changed that much over the last 50 years. When we look at technology and the potential of technology, we believe in autonomous robotics and in artificial intelligence. There's the potential to improve the capability of the driving experience of the average driver. However, most people are not yet prepared to accept a co-pilot, to accept that, when they're driving, they will share the driving tasks with an autonomous technology. So what we set out to do is we set out to mount something that would demonstrate in real time what the potential of the technology was, while at the same time involving the consumer so that they could see what could really happen on track. So that we're doing two things at the one time. We're bringing forward the demonstration of what the technology can do at extreme, and at the same time involving the public to see how it happens. Because the history of technology is that the potential of that technology oftentimes remains unused as you build the use case and the acceptance of consumers.
Well, you mentioned the challenge to build that perfect clock so you could measure longitude. We take that for granted now. So hopefully here in 20 years or 50 years or whatever, they might look back and say, hey, the A2RL, the challenge that you're posing here made a big difference. It sounds like your hope is in what autonomous cars might be doing on the streets in the cities where we live. The whole idea of a challenge, hundreds of years ago, it was to create that more accurate clock so you could navigate around the world. And now this challenge is to navigate autonomously on the city streets. Ultimately, maybe it'll bring that technology. And so there's definitely the technology part, but it is racing. And when you think about racing, well, one, it has the human element in it, and humans are fragile, and they're controlling these complex machines. There's the danger that's involved, and there's the drama of the drivers, Drive to Survive and all the drama that's behind that. Do you think that you'll have that thrill, you'll have that attraction in autonomous car racing, just like you do in traditional racing with human drivers?
No, and I don't think that's what we're trying to do in replacing that. We're trying to create something very different. I think, what we see in motorsport is what we saw hundreds and hundreds of years ago in the Forum in Rome, with the gladiators out against each other, where their lives were on the line. Quite literally, where you have a human being sitting inches from the ground, going at incredible speeds, using, the physical and mental prowess and capacity over an hour racing. That's something that we all thrill to see, and it's something in no way that we want to replace. But what we're trying to do in trying to create a spectacle for this is to go in a very different direction. And that direction, we believe, really involves going online in the first instance. We want to bring you, the spectator, right into the cockpit. So one of the things that we set ourselves a challenge for in the last year is how do we build that online experience so that the audience that is looking at this is actually participating. So we've built actually a VR experience so
Is
that
it
the
more about that online experience then than actually sitting in the stands and watching the cars?
I think so. I mean, we will mount actual races. We will bring people to the event, and we will create a big event. But we don't see that as the first motivation for doing it. I mean, we're going to do that for the local audience. We're going to create fan zones around it with touch experiences that they can have. But we think longer term, the real appeal of this racing will be through an online experience, that will have you having that virtual reality experience. But we've also built an app. So in this particular app, it can do everything from registering to actually physically be at the thing, to looking at the broadcast, but also to be engaging in a game. So what we're going to see is you're going to see the ability to be able to hop in a ghost car and race against cars in real time. Not just a simulation race or a historic race, but a real race that's happening.
So anyone can have their own personal race going during the actual race, in effect.
Precisely, yeah. And as we're doing their first race here, and in many ways, this is a proof of concept race. We're showing it can be done and what can be done, and we can come back and talk about what we will do in terms of the exact race. But if I were to run this down the road, and I were to say, hey, what would my dream be? That we bring our cars to tracks all over the world, iconic tracks, and stage races. Collect the data on those races, and then invite the online audience to race with us. So that there you are racing on iconic tracks. You can get on your app, you can get in the car, and you can race in real time when a car is racing around one of these tracks. So that you're actually a participant observer now, rather than a static observer looking at something happening in front of you. You're actually doing it in real time as well.
And I think people now like to experience things more than just watch things. What's the demographic you're attacking with this? Is it the under 30 crowd, the 30 to 50, everyone? Where do you think your biggest audience is going to be when it comes to age and interest, that type of thing?
So obviously, with most things, you start and what you're doing in your first event is you're actually collecting data and where the interest comes across the demographic. But if you were to ask me to really guess, where I see our graphic is coming from people that are pre-teen, right up into their 30s. That's where we believe the hump of the graphic will be, and that's where we're pushing that online experience. So one of the things that we are doing is we are doing a STEM race as well. So we have a race for teenagers where they're going to race 1/8 size cars. Cars that would normally be designed for radio control racing, but they will race them autonomously. That will happen on a kart track alongside the main track while we're doing the thing. And we have
Now,
actually
how big are
enrolled-
these cars? Are they like little, like a couple of feet long, or like go-kart size?
These are actually 1/8 size of a full-size car, so they're about 3 feet long, I think, at this stage. They're not an open-wheel racer; they're a saloon car, and they're cars that would normally be used in radio control. So they have radio control features, but we switch on their autonomous features. And what we've done is we've recruited schools, and those schools will have been since December receiving instruction in programming, and now they're on track and they're practicing. And our long-term vision is that we want this to be a global event for STEM students, so that each of the teams that will come to race at any time from all over the world would have a whole set of feeder schools into them that would be competing at a STEM level. That would then produce a pipeline of kids that would go on to seek to go to university, to do engineering degrees, to become racers in this. But for those that don't, they become aware of the technology. They become aware through hands-on learning of what autonomy can do. And then, they turn around and say, well, we've been doing this since we were pre-teens. Why would it be surprising that we would want to have these in our cars when we come to buy them? Because I think one of the biggest problems that I see over the last few years is that, like most technologies, there's been a technology bubble in autonomy where people came around and said, hey, autonomy is the way of the future. Driverless cars are the way of the future. And there's been a bit of a bubble on that. And what you have seen now is you've seen consumers rejecting this. We see major car manufacturers taking out autonomous parking capabilities out of cars because consumers aren't using it. They don't want it. We see consumers switching off lane assist because it makes them feel nervous when they're driving.
Well, how do you think? Well, first of all, your point's a good one. How do you think that having an autonomous car race will make people more comfortable of switching that driver assist back on? How's that going to actually happen?
I think this is where the being a participant in the race is going to be very important, and that's why we're focusing on younger people. So if you're online, if you're wearing goggles and sitting in the car and going around the track in that VR experience. And the one we've put together is amazing. You actually have to sit down. You get dizzy if you try to stand up looking at the car, being in the car, going around the place. But it is an amazing experience. But if you're also then a participant in the game, you're hopping in your ghost car, you're actually pitting yourself of person versus machine. So that machine is racing there autonomously, and you're pitting your skills against that. So you're actually, it's without
you're engaging. You're engaging with autonomous technology directly. Yeah, so that's a great way to get familiar, I would think, with and maybe feel a little safer around it, I would guess.
Absolutely. I mean, we can do all the demonstrations you want. I mean, we're going to stage a demonstration at the event, which is a man versus machine. We're bringing a Formula One driver in because we've also in prototype developed a human, we've taken a human driven version of this car and we use that for shakedown initially for the autonomous car. But since we have it, we're going to bring a Formula One driver along, get him to drive on the track and get the autonomous car driving as well.
Is this something you'll have at that first race?
Yes, that's going to be so. On the main event race, we have two main races. We have speed trials and we have wheel to wheel. And but in between, we're going to have that prototype demonstration where we do the man versus machine race in the thing. We've already run this in prototype, and there's a couple of surprises in it. There are some unique features of the Yas Marina circuit that we're going to exploit to demonstrate the capability of autonomy and what we've already achieved with that.
Something that might give the autonomous racer a little bit of an advantage, you think, over a human driver?
No, actually, it's that one of the big things that would make it very difficult for an autonomous car to drive around. So, I mean, some of this, maybe I can let you in on the secret here. To get into the pits in the Yas Marina circuit, you have to go down through tunnels.
Absolutely. So course, it's iconic.
That knocks out your ability to take in GPS signals. So that makes it extremely difficult for an autonomous vehicle to navigate that pit tunnel. So we're not going to force the competing teams to do that this year, but we're going to attempt to see can the autonomous car negotiate the pit tunnel while racing against the human driver.
You raise actually a really interesting point because there have been other autonomous car events, races, if you want to call them that. And for the most part, they've been on ovals. Certainly when there's more than one car on the track, it's been on ovals. Open, where you can rely on GPS and all that. But you're actually bringing up a great example here where just to get onto the track, get on and off the track, you're going to have to say, hey, it's not all about GPS, but you have to start to look at all the sensors and utilize them. So I'm sure you've heard of the Indy Autonomous Challenge, Robo Race.
Absolutely.
How is what you're doing different than those series?
Okay, well, first thing, I want to pay huge tribute to the innovators there. We're building on the shoulders of what those guys did in Robo Race, what they did in Indy. And then some of our colleagues here have participated in Indy already. I think the big difference for us is that we recognize you have to be in this for the long term. You have to create a whole ecosystem around this thing, and you have to commit because, as we said earlier, this is not going to be a solution that emerges in a year or two. We want to look back 10, 20 years from now where people are taking it as second nature. Why wouldn't you have a shared pilot in your car? So in order to get there, you have to build something that's going to be sustained. So we needed to put together a business model that could actually sustain itself over time. So that was the first thing we did. So we have committed not just to having a race this year, but having to have the same race repeated each year for the next 4 years with the same prize fund. And then we will then use that to build on races that occur at tracks all over the world. So we said this needs to be global and it needs to be sustained over the long term. The second thing is we wanted to build it as part of an ecosystem that was not just about cars, but it was about transportation in general and mobility in general. So we will be announcing details at the end of April of our next platform for racing, which will be drone racing. So we're going to have autonomous drone racing come on as the next race after this, and that will be followed by off-road buggy racing, and we also intend to have water-based autonomous vehicle racing. So our focus is not just on autonomous mobility on road, but on air, land, and sea, and off-road as well. So, we're building the whole ecosystem that can deliver across all of these areas, and we think that it's very important to do that in order to make the gains that are required.
Will these be separate series, or will the same teams be competing with different types of vehicles, sort of a land, air, sea multi-competition?
Obviously, it'll be open to teams to join, but we expect there to be multiple different teams. So, for example, when we come to drones, we believe that the use cases for the autonomous drones may be in areas of the world that are less developed. So we would hope to see teams emerging from, say, the African continent that we're not seeing here at the moment. We have teams from Europe, North America, the Middle East, and Asia at the moment. In the car race, we want to add teams from South America, from India. We don't believe that we will see a car team emerging from Africa. But when we come to the drone racing, we're going to put huge emphasis on getting participation from less developed areas of the world, because we believe that the use cases surrounding autonomous drones will make most impact initially in less developed areas. Yeah. I mean, I talk about the use case for the cars, and it's about making driving on the road safer. When I look at drones, it's about delivering aid, delivering medical intervention to remote areas without regular transportation. And therefore, we would hope to see participant teams coming from areas that are very dispersed. And also, because of the price point with, say, something like drones being so much lower, we want to unearth people that are not associated with a company or associated with a university. We want to get that kid is in their basement and have always dreamed about doing something, and maybe being able to enter into a race with very low cost and capital expenditure, and maybe emerge, and that be part of the development process, that they can become involved in other elements of the autonomous series.
Well, I think that's a good point, right? If you have a STEM competition and then you bring in younger people that are programming these real race cars, it's like a ladder, step by step by step. They know it's possible that they could be real autonomous racers. When you look at the Indy Autonomous Challenge and Robo Racer, is there anything you saw in there? One that I saw it there, we're going to do it different. And is there anything that you saw there that said, they did that the right way, we're going to do it the same way they did it? Can you give me an example of both of those?
Okay, I think in the Robo Race one, the one that struck for me was the fact that they tried to remove too many things at the one time, by which I mean they went with an EV and an autonomous vehicle at the same time.
You think a mistake to go with an EV?
I think it was, yeah.
Why is that?
I think you were, because one of the things, I mean, we talked earlier about the gladiatorial nature of motor racing.
The roar of the engine, is that it?
It's that feeling you get in the pit of your stomach when you hear the bang and the clatter of an engine. And we just didn't want to pull that one out straight away. So we thought, I think our learning there was one innovation at a time, one change at a time. And that's affected quite a number of the things that we've done. I think when we came to Indy, one of the things that we really learned from them was the approach to attack and defend, as being, when you wanted to move from, say, speed trials to multi-wheel racing, you actually have to start with two cars racing in an attack-defend format. And I liked the way they did the thing, but what we wanted to do was push that on to more generally being on a road track rather than on an oval. So we have, there's been cautionary tales and good learnings. And as I say, we're building on the shoulders of innovators, and we really salute and celebrate them, and hope we can see them prosper in the future just as we do.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the nature of the race? What is there qualifying? Is there heat races? How long are the races? Or is it going to be wheel to wheel? That type of thing?
Sure. Okay, well, I mean, the first thing is where we're really different is the teams spend a lot of time here. So we've had all the teams on site here since the beginning of March. So they started by being introduced to their cars, and that, essentially getting to understand the different components of the cars, and then going out on a vehicle dynamic area to do basics around cones to make sure that they could translate their theory into practice in the cars. Then they were brought out onto the track. Now they're all housed in garages on the track. So each team is in the garage on the track. So they'll be here for a total of 2 months in their practicing.
How many
And
teams do you have?
we have 8 teams. And so these teams we have one team from the US, we have a team from Switzerland, a team from Germany, a team from Hungary, 2 teams from Italy, we have a team from Singapore, and we have a team that is a joint team between UAE and China. So 8 teams from around the world. And they're all housed, as I said, they've all got a garage, they've all got a team cabin outside where team cabin is full of guys on laptops. The garage is full of the car with all the paraphernalia of the car. And we've really put a lot of effort into that. The one big feature of this is that it's a one design race. So we've chosen the Super Formula car developed by Dallara for Japan Race Promotion as the most the fastest, highest performance car outside Formula One, but also was a car that's a one design car. So every team gets exactly the same car with exactly the same setup. And that includes the setup of the autonomy perception components on that car. In addition, we provide a full mechanics team. So the teams themselves can't interfere in the setup. They will have mechanics assigned to them. They will work alongside them, but those mechanics set the cars up exactly the same. And all the components in the cars are identical. So the only difference is the coding.
How did you pick the teams? What did it take to qualify as a team and be part of this competition?
Yeah, that's a really good question because, in other competitions, what they did is they just issued a general invitation and asked them people to submit white papers with their proposals. So we knew some of the teams that were out there already, but we wanted to identify new teams that were out there. So we actually went through a process that was you might call it discussion, get to know you process, because we wanted to bring people that shared our vision for what they wanted to achieve, and that we were also sure that had the capability and the capacity to do the programming, but also to have that understanding of motor support that could translate it into the track. So we identified a long list of candidates through an open call just about 12 months ago. We actually announced this just 12 months ago.
How long was the list? How many did you have that applied?
I think we spoke to approximately 24 different potentials.
So one third made the cut then, roughly.
One third made the cut, yeah. And I mean, look, some of them are coming on board for year 2 because we actually have a total of 20 cars that we've commissioned for this. So we deliberately decided that we only wanted teams that we felt could pass the threshold of being able to make a good effort here on the track. Because one of the things that we've really built into this is that there is science behind this, and the way science works, it's all about collaboration and then competing to get the win out. If you're a scientist, your competing is to get that paper published first, that idea published first. If you're in A2RL, you're competing to win that race, to get the prize. But to get there, you have to collaborate, you have to share. And we want to make sure that they were all at a standard that could genuinely contribute into that joint learning. So the selection process involved me really in months of getting to know these people, going to visit them, seeing what their facilities were, looking at them in the eye and feeling, yeah, these are the guys that can do it. And so it was a long process, but I think it's an important process to get the right team in place.
Well, it looks like you've got teams from all over the world. And you said something I think that's really interesting is it's not just about programming. There also are mechanical aspects of this, although they don't have to take care of the mechanical parts, but they do need to know about racing. What would you say, do all the teams have some kind of racing experience? And, what is the nature of that racing experience that complements what they have to know in order to program these cars effectively?
Sure. Well, all of the teams have in some way or another experience in some class of racing. Now, as I said, 2 of the teams come from Italy. Both of them come from Motor Valley. I think it's their bred into their DNA. You know, so they're
Just when they
engineers.
drive on the street, maybe is enough, I would think.
I think when they inhale the air, because one of the things I've learned in this, and it's been this amazing thing, because we've had to partner up the manufacturers and the suppliers, and it's not just a question of us buying components from them. We really had to get them to buy into the concept of what we're trying to do. Imagine trying to persuade Dallara to leave us go at their beautiful Super Formula car and take the halo off and put in a computer and a whole bunch of computing. But what I learned there was what created that industry was of Motor Valley. I mean, you see the same thing in India. You see the same sort of heritage that's there. When we see those universities coming from there, we see that heritage in the universities. You go there, visit, you see how closely connected they are with motorsport. The same is true. You go to Germany, you see exactly the same thing in Munich. You go to Hungary, we saw exactly the same thing there, because the team from Hungary are part of the Hungarian Mobility Development Agency, which is a government entity. It joins up with universities in Hungary and with the Zalazone testbed facility. So that sort of heritage is built in. Similarly, when you look at Constructor University coming from Switzerland, their connection with technology and motorsports and their past heritage with RoboRace, they're all unique in their own little ways. Similarly with Code 19 from Indiana and their link into the Indy series in the past, they all have that motorsport heritage combined with their scientific nous.
How does that change this diverse background? Like you said, you have people from Indianapolis. You have people that are just down the street from Maranello there in Ferrari. You've got Hungary, China, the Emirates, from all over the world. How is that difference in culture and background, whatever you want to call it, how does that change how they approach this engineering problem? Do you see any differences?
Yeah, it's interesting too. We have a daily debrief with all of the teams. What was your experience on track today? One of the things we also look at, of course, is while we have laid out the racing and sporting regulations, we're also creating a whole new sporting regulations here. So I have a big motorsport team that I've built up. We've got our chief engineer, chief mechanic, race coordinators. Like, we have people that come from a non-autonomous racing background, and we're them sitting in a room here with all our autonomous coders, and then you're putting them together to discuss how we're putting sporting regulations together. And it's very interesting but you've got our pure motorsport culture and approach to the racing. You've got our autonomous coders and their approach. So that's an interesting blend of cultures in and of itself. And then across the teams, you definitely have a difference in preference for risk. And it's not necessarily, you can say that in one culture it's different to another. It's actually the personalities of the coders. And I think that's going to be kind of interesting. One of the things people said to me, but you're going to use robotics and you're going to use AI, so everybody's going to be perfect, right? No. I mean, that's not where technology is at, and that's where technology is never at, because personality always plays a part. So if you think about how they're going to code these cars, right? There are a number of components in. There's the way in which the car just interacts with the ground that it sits on, right? And how it gets feedback information from its performance as it moves along that ground. There is how that team teaches the car to learn about the track, the localization module. But then the other thing is the strategy and planning module. How do you actually set that car up to plan its attack in and out of corners? Now, that strategy is as much the personality of the coder being reflected in the coding. And some coders have a greater preference for risk than others, and that,
as drivers do.
Exactly. And so you started with the personality of the coders being programmed in, and then you have the AI learning from that personality. And so the each car will evolve over time, but it will never lose that human component that was put into it.
After all, they are human programmers, right? Well, so you do plan then to have wheel-to-wheel racing, where this type of strategy. How many cars on the track do you think you'll have in this first race at the same time?
Our objective is so we have 8 teams, and we want 4 teams to qualify for the final race. So on race day, we're going to have speed trials, and then we're also going to have that 4-car wheel-to-wheel racing. Now, on prior days, we're going to do attacker defender, 2 cars at a time, and we're going to run that because we're going to do that in a round robin series. We're going to have multiple races in that, and we're going to record all of that and capture that so that that can be played as part of the broadcast during the race day as well. But we want to give teams plenty of time to do that attack defend. And that's where you're going to potentially have some crashes. So give us a bit of time to do repairs the cars for final day. But it has never been the case before that more than 2 cars autonomously have raced on a track against each other. So we believe the race to base camp this year is to get 4 cars racing against each other on the track. So that's the big ask of the teams.
Well, and you raise actually a really, really good point here. Is it's one thing in a competition to have a passing competition where 2 cars are on the track and you set up a pass, you try and execute it properly. It's something else to truly do wheel-to-wheel racing. So if you have 2 human drivers going around a track, and the one that's in second place is going to study the driver in front of them, and they're going to look at them and say, oh, they look weak in turn 3 or turn 4. I'm going to go to the inside and pass on turn 4 where they're the weakest. That's a level of strategy that builds up overlaps. You have to, do you see that type of programming being done? Because that's over and above what many autonomous cars, even on the street, have to do right now.
Absolutely, and that's why we have them here for 2 months. So they've been focusing on during March of getting their car to perform on the track, doing the localization module. But in the last 2 weeks, from the 15th of April, we have taken exclusive use of the Yas Marina circuit from 9 a.m. in the morning to midnight. So all teams will be there, and they will be required to go in multi-car racing on the track. So they will be training, collecting data for 2 weeks in advance of race day. So it's not that they sit on their computers and they program and then they all turn up on race day and see can they race against each other. They've been practicing against each other for weeks in advance, and that practicing will enhance the learning and the training.
So start to build it into the strategy.
Yes, you start building it into the strategy. Yeah.